Darkness. I'm Rob Jacobs.
And I'm Father Bob Bailey. You know, when we're on different radio talk shows or YouTube shows, when they ask to interview us, a lot of times they ask us about the different cases. And so I thought that we would take this time to discuss some of our memorable cases. And since we get asked that a lot. So we'll begin, we have several categories, but we'll begin by, they usually ask, what was your scariest case?
Yeah, that's usually one that comes out often.
Yeah. And I think we both would agree it's one that we just did.
Probably, yeah, the most recent one.
The most recent one. I have to say that this case was the first case that I consider actual demonic possession, showing the signs of demonic possession.
Yeah. I think even from the first phone call, there was a sense that this was legitimate.
Yeah. Yeah.
The demeanor of the guy that called.
Yeah.
He was completely in a panic. And, you know, a lot of people are like that anyway.
Oh, yeah.
There was something about this one that really seemed like there was more to it.
Right. And there was actually a foreboding. There was almost, this is the first one that we actually had a sign before we actually got there. And that was your wife, who always brings a tumbler of tea.
Mm-hmm.
Was going down. All of a sudden she said, "Oh my God,
that's right.
This smells like urine."
That's right.
And I went to her, "Oh yeah, right, okay." He said, "Yeah, really." So you smelt it, and then I smelt it. I said, "Holy God, this is urine." And then little did we know that when we would get there, she was in a pool of urine.
That's right.
I mean, that right then and there we knew, oh my gosh, we're dealing. Besides the fact that kind of all hell broke loose in our day-to-day lives just before that came.
That seems to happen often,
yeah.
But more so
before
that
or after. And we got there, and
well, first off, I mean, he met us outside.
Yeah.
We had trouble finding the place at first.
Yes, we did.
With a GPS.
With the GPS.
And it just kept looping us around that building. And once we went in, I think two things hit me first: the heaviness and the foul odor that was in that room.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Well, not to mention the girl was banging.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that was
against
tough to see in itself.
And again, you know, you begin and you wonder if it's something, but then as the time progressed, she saw very clear signs of superhuman strength. I mean, her boyfriend, you know,
big boy,
a guy, good shaped guy, could just about hold her down.
Yeah.
It wouldn't let her eat.
That's right. She withered away to almost nothing.
Almost nothing, and so when I inquired, of course, before an exorcism can be undertaken, the diocese will ask for certain things, such as a psychological survey of the person to see if there is some kind of psychosis, because it would be very dangerous again to treat something that's a psychological problem as a spiritual problem, because it won't go away. And I asked about that, and he said she had been. And they haven't found anything, and so much so that some people want to put her into one of those
mental
institutions, but they couldn't find anything in their prognosis. And then asked her, because she's wasting away in nothing, well, can't you give her something to eat? And he said, it won't let her eat.
Yeah.
You know, and all of that, and that was part and parcel of the evidence. You remember foul language?
Oh yeah, she said quite a few things.
Yeah. And speaking in another language, and also then we tried to do the deliverance prayer, the liberation prayer. We were there for over an hour. I mean, we were there for longer than that, but doing the ritual. Then we stopped. Then we tried again. Could not. We just put. I mean, I put everything out of my bag of tricks that I could, and it did nothing. And just to see the anguish on the person, you know, help me.
Yeah.
And then it would go into this other thing, and so much so that I said, oh, she's not baptized. I'm going to baptize her. And the thing said to us, too effing late.
That's right.
Her mother should have done this before. I'll tell you, after that, we just, there's no more we could do, obviously. So I said, we'd have to start an investigation. I have to bring it to the local church. It wasn't my diocese. So I called up the bishop, who I actually knew. And I was so proud of this bishop and so thankful, because I called the diocese and he got back to me. He was at a meeting. He got back to me that afternoon. He listened to me. I gave him the evidence. I even told him about the smell of the urine. He was, oh my. And he gave me the number of the exorcist, explained it to him, and he got right on it.
I'll tell you, it benefited us in one way that we normally don't videotape this sort of thing.
Right.
But because we felt that this was something that was very formidable or real, I mean definitely real, we got their permission and we did film it. And I'm so glad we did, because that was so much evidence to give to them,
right,
to kind of substantiate what we were saying.
Yeah, so we gave that to no one. We will never show it out of respect for the client's anonymity. But we were able to give it to the to the exorcist, and I felt really good that we were able to do that. We just hope and pray, now that she's in the proper hands.
I actually sent the guy an email, or a text rather,
It was
a couple weeks ago.
Boyfriend.
Yeah. And he said that she has been seen, and the Reverend has come over and prayed over her a couple of times.
The priest, yes.
Yeah, and they're just looking. I guess there's another approval they're waiting for,
right,
but things have gotten a little bit better for her. But I'll tell you, we hear from people saying, "Oh, I'd love to do that." I'm like, something. Once you've seen something like that, it changes you a bit. I mean, it's awful. I mean, we have that video, and I've watched part of it once because I had to copy it for them. I won't watch it again.
Yeah, it's something that just does it, that sits with you for a while.
Yeah.
And and I have to take issue with some people who like to self-diagnose. This one was possessed and went in and out of possession, or that is just not what happens.
No.
Or that it can be instantaneous. Sometimes these things take a while. Don't fully understand it.
Yeah.
But the battle is sober when you're dealing with a demon once it has taken possession of a person. And we have got emails that said, I think I'm possessed, or this was possessed, and nothing like this. So that was our, I think, scariest case, because we were truly scared, not at the demon.
Yeah.
That doesn't scare me. But what was truly scary was that the frustration of wanting to help this girl before something really bad happened. So that was our scariest case. I think the next one that you can start to talk about too is the most frustrating case.
Yeah, we've had a couple that were frustrating, but this one in particular case, I know you'll recall, because we spent a lot of time with this family. It was not so local. It was a couple towns over, and it was mainly a guy that believed he was cursed by another family member, and he may well have been cursed, and it seemed like he probably was, because some of the signs and indications that were there, things were left, at the house, like almost like ritual type things.
Yeah.
And we went. I don't know how many times we went there. 3 or 4.
I brought the Holy Eucharist, blessed the house with the Most Holy, the Blessed Sacrament. I offered Mass in the house. We prayed. We did everything we could, and nothing to no avail. But there were red flags for me, because they were so devout. They went to Mass every day, prayed many rosaries. They had a shrine to Our Lady, a prayer room, and it just didn't make sense. Now, curses, I mean, that could happen. But as we began to investigate more, and even Terry, our case manager, his wife, began to talk, because they were Portuguese, so spoke in Portuguese. We were able to find out, I think there's something more to it. And it turned out that there was a psychological problem, but that's very hard to tell people that are convinced that it's spiritual.
Right.
And so, and I think it was frustrating, because we couldn't help him. And we could see that he was almost becoming a victim to it, and just saying this is, he couldn't fight it, because he just fell victim. But almost victim like, I don't know, that it was almost like an attention thing. And But yet, we found out that there were some psychological problems
Right.
after the fact. And then I finally got a call saying that, he was to self-destruction and had to go to the hospital. And I said, well, that's the best thing that could happen.
Right.
I said, wanted to tell you this, I tried to tell you this, but, I did not believe it was really that much of a spiritual, but it was mostly psychological. And it was frustrating because, again, we are just, we bond with our clients and we wanted to help them. And that was the frustrating thing. And also finding out afterwards, into it, that there were other psychological issues and stuff that had happened.
I think you could say there was a little bit of enabling going on from his spouse. I mean, granted, they were very devout, there's no doubt about that, but he believed wholeheartedly that nothing was going to get rid of this curse.
Yes.
And secondly, there were a lot of factors in that place that added to what they were dealing with. There was such high readings of the EMF in the basement, which can cause hallucinations.
Yes.
But I guess because they had dealt with it so long, they were at the point where any little thing was something demonic.
Because remember when Terry went down the basement with it, and listened to that,
Yeah.
and it was basically that's walking.
Yeah, it was footsteps.
Footsteps.
Our footsteps.
Our footsteps. So again, that I think hands down that was the most frustrating case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now you mentioned one, another category called the most interesting case.
Yeah, one of the, I think, most interesting was something we haven't really dealt with other than this one time. And it was a local case. It was in Taunton, where we are, right off of the city, surprisingly. It was a woman and her daughter, and they were very upset. It was a place they had just moved into, and, their accounts were that strange things were happening, things were being moved around, they were seeing an apparition, and there was a heaviness. So I think this is back when we still had TPG going on too. So we did a small investigation, the Taunton Paranormal Group. So Father Bailey, myself, and two others from the group, I think it was Ed and John, and Scotty actually, we went there and we did a short investigation for that night, but we were surprised to see what we found.
Yeah.
While we were upstairs, we killed all the lights, and you started speaking to whatever was there, and we ended up hearing something in the bathroom. And one of the accounts was they had seen something to do with the mirror. I mean, it was so long ago, it's hard to recall everything.
True.
But we went over and we saw some sort of movement in that bathroom, which kind of validated what they said. But the most interesting thing that happened there was when we went into the basement.
That's right. Now I'm beginning to remember more.
Yes.
As we're going into it. And I want to say one thing before. I was speaking to it, but again, I caution people speaking to a malevolent spirit. I was commanding in the name of Jesus Christ to answer me. It wasn't just saying, ba, 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 do this, do that. I always do it in my commanding in my official capacity as a priest with that authority.
Right.
I would not advise people to do that.
Yeah, certainly
Normally.
not to provoke or challenge. But yeah, when we went into the basement, we had the family members with us, and we set up, it was a sensor that had a light on it that was at the end of a table, and we had the K2 meter, I don't know, about a foot away from it.
Which is, for our audience who doesn't know what K2 is?
That's to measure electromagnetic fields, or, if there is a spirit, the theory is that they're made up of an electromagnetic energy. We went around with it first and made sure there was nothing that would set it off.
Because what would happen was when energy came near it, it would start to, the colors would start to
Illuminate the lights,
Yes, the lights.
So we had the sensor, if anything passed in front of it, a light would go on. So we put the K2 meter about a foot behind it, and while we were videotaping, as Father Bailey was asking questions, suddenly the light would come on, and the K2 meter, which was behind it, would react. And that happened, I don't know, a handful of times.
Yeah, because Scotty was there doing the filming.
Right.
And it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. There was nothing that moved that could have set off the light, nor...
And it was way down to the corner where it was all black, and yet, if I recall, I could see a little mist in that.
That was definitely an interesting
Yeah, because of getting the answers back, which again, I don't encourage carrying conversations with a spirit like that, especially when you know it's malevolent. But again, for myself, I try to command them to give me some information.
Right, and I think we determined at that point it wasn't a human spirit, but it wasn't a demonic spirit.
It was an elemental, which I'm not sure. It's
Right.
a force. It's a force. I don't know too much about it,
No, I don't either.
but it was something that wasn't good.
Right, right.
It was not a good spirit. So
I haven't heard anything from them. I know we did the deliverance, liberation, and from there we haven't heard anything. So I suppose that's a good thing,
right.
you know. So
Now another category was the longest case,
yeah.
which could also go into the idea in the category of frustrating because it was long.
True.
And that was in New Hampshire.
Yeah, yeah, that was, and you know something, I think something about that case really hit home. You know, we got close to that family,
Yes.
and to see the struggle, not only that the person involved, but the family went through for so long. I mean, when we met them, you could see that they were physically and mentally
They
burnt
spent
out.
money after money. I mean, literally thousands and thousands of dollars on treatments and stuff,
Yeah,
psychiatric treatments, to no avail.
Yeah, it was
To no
terrible.
avail.
And we had gone to see them, I think, twice in New Hampshire, and we had them come down to us a couple times.
That was in the days when I wasn't at the parish I am now. I had a little bit more time, to be able to do that. Now, this parish keeps me very busy. My current parish.
But you know what was awful? When we first met them, she was not well at all.
Oh, yeah.
She had something that was speaking through her.
Yeah.
She had put on a lot of weight. Her face was really, I guess from what it was doing, it was making her do stuff to herself.
It was telling her she was ugly and all
yeah.
that, and so she was disfiguring her face, not literally, but just letting herself go.
Yeah, yeah. They had to, I guess they covered every mirror in the house because whenever she looked in a mirror, it would tell her she was disgusting and
Right.
this and that. Terrible things.
And again, and that could have been a psychological case, but they had been going
Yeah.
down that route, which is why after that they contacted us.
Right. But I think the best part is the second time we saw her and prayed over her, she was so much better. I mean, this was a woman that didn't leave the house. She couldn't socialize with people. She had
Couldn't
to quit
carry
school.
on couldn't go to school, no job.
No job, didn't drive. To where the final time we saw her, she had lost weight. She looked good. She was driving. She was back in school, and things were. And you could see in her father and mother that they were better too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's one of the
Stress.
things that is so gratifying about when something actually really good comes out of
But
it.
then she came to my old rectory too, right?
Yeah, that's when.
And that's when we realized, because we had gone up there twice.
Right.
But when she came back, she was a different what a beautiful face. She
Yeah.
was so pretty. And you could see the transformation. And
Absolutely.
and that doesn't always happen, sad
No.
to say, but it was gratifying.
I remember when we first went, I was terrified that she was going to attack you.
Yeah.
That's how unpredictable we thought she was. I mean, you never know what's going to happen anyway, but
No,
that
you
was
don't.
one that was kind of a little nerve-wracking because you just didn't know.
Right. Right.
But yeah, that was definitely one for the books, and it was so good to see the turnout, so that was awesome.
Now, for the most troublesome case, we voted what now?
Most
Norton
troublesome, yes, the Norton case. And if anybody has followed, like, either the old show Haunted Happenings or even the Animal Planet, that was the episode that aired on Animal Planet. We got a call from the owner of a place in Attleboro, and his accounts were that there was something not good going on. And he thought it was just
Attleboro or
spirits. It was Attleboro.
Oh, was that over?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, it was Norton. You're
Norton,
right.
yeah.
I misspoke. So we went there, and some of the accounts, they actually had some great video footage of a white mist going across the rear of the store, and a black mist in the shape of a person. It was some of the best video evidence I've ever seen, and unfortunately, because it was set up on a security system, he couldn't figure a way to get it off of there, so we never got a hold of that footage other than seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the one other footage he had from outside, which is touch and go. I mean, there was something about it that didn't sit well, but then there was other parts that
Yeah, it was this figure with this
distorted
distorted
face.
face coming right up to where the well, that was in the surveillance camera.
It was, yes.
Surveillance camera, and as you said that part of it was almost translucent.
Yeah, the thing walked up onto the front porch of the store, and there was a trash barrel, and as it approached the side, it looked like it passed through the trash barrel, like its legs just kind of...
Right, and I think I remember that now,
Yeah.
you know. The only thing I wondered, and again, who knows in the spirit world, but it was riding a bicycle.
Yeah, that's what was
Come up,
odd.
and so that, you know, but again, who knows? But...
I mean, the only thing I'll say about the bicycle is that the side of the store was here and there was
That's
a fence.
right. That's
And
right.
the camera was facing down, and this came full speed out of nowhere. There's no way he could have picked up any speed, whatever it was, to come
That's
from the
true.
side of the store.
That's
So that's it was perplexing.
Perplexing, you know, and again, it could have been, you
Yeah.
know. There were definitely believable parts of it for what we saw.
But regardless of the video footage, when we went in, we did have two of the members there were attacked. One was bitten on the arm, and I know we've shown the footage of that before. And there was a female there that said she was, like, it felt like something reached inside of her and
Yeah,
twisted her insides.
Or gave a severe blow to the stomach.
Yeah.
And she was doubled over in pain.
And she was really
And
crying.
then let me tell you, that was no fake job.
No.
I felt so bad.
Yeah. And then something
Then something happened to you. You started to get because you're an empath. You have an empathic gift. That you began to feel this on, so we had to actually pray over you. You don't remember it, but they had to take the camera off you.
Yeah.
So it was, it really was an interesting case.
And unfortunately, I think that's the case that ended up causing what happened at home.
Yes,
For
because
months.
it was one of those things where one of the entities followed you home.
Yeah.
So then we had to deal with it at your house.
Yeah.
Which was just for another. Well, that's on you. That was on.
Yeah. That's the one that hit the TV.
But unfortunately, with this one, we didn't have any real closure in that because of the publicity. You know, the person decided to at the end kind of shrug it off and
He denied a lot of it.
He denied it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can understand that. You know, when you're on national television, it is kind of embarrassing. So.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I think I learned the hard way about that too. I mean, you know, the way my kids got poked fun of. You know, you learn. You know, TV is not necessarily the best idea.
Right.
And we did have, frustrating. I'm trying to think. There was another. Formidable. Yes. And you lead in with that one.
Yeah, and that was in another place in Massachusetts, and a woman dealing with, I would say, severe oppression, almost bordering on going towards possession, but it was not possession.
Oh,
but
yes.
it was the deepest form of oppression because the spirit was speaking out of her when we prayed over her. But you know, the nice thing was that there were two priests who had tried to help her and to no avail, and then either they asked to call me or they knew of me, and so we went there to help, and that was an incredible case.
It was.
And it's one of those with learning experience curve too, because every time we go in a case we learn something, and we learned how the or even the one in New Hampshire, that there can be psychological issues there as well as spiritual.
Right.
Because what easier way for the demonic to hide but when there's a psychological. I'm not saying that in every case.
Right.
I mean, there's some clear-cut psychological psychosis and all of that, but we learned that it is possible.
Right.
And I think in that case definitely showed it.
You know what's interesting about that too, before we talk about her in particular, was she had said she'd been dealing with it, I believe, for 14 years, and other than the two priests, I think she had tried a couple other routes. I don't remember exactly, like a shaman or something, but she had no effect. This thing continued to bother her for that whole time.
And really kind of, what it did do is made, you know, some of her behavioral issues worse. Like she was like, what was she, OCD? I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
But whatever it was, it made it highlighted it more.
Yeah.
It just made it worse. So.
And then you didn't see this because when you started doing the prayer over her, she was, it was being very obnoxious and taunting you, and
Yeah.
you really started to just focus on the prayer and close your eyes and continue to pray. And I was praying along, and as I stood over her, I know she wasn't possessed, but her face changed.
Yeah.
It contorted her. It was something I've never seen before, and I don't think I'll ever forget. But yeah, I mean, that I think it could fall into kind of scary too. You know, I mean, that was just something I'd never seen. Even with that most recent case, she was much worse, but I didn't see a facial contortion.
For me, it was that was very frustrating for me, because I kept going over and kept going. And when I thought, it was playing with me.
Yeah.
It was playing with me, because it said, I'll go. You know, then after that, laugh. So finally I said, you know what? And I just knelt, and I went into a mental prayer and a contemplation. And actually I was picturing St. John Paul II and asking his intercession. And she was doing everything she could,
I know,
to try and get me out of the tree, and I wouldn't do it. I just kept my mind and my spirit focused on that. And then
you were very focused. I don't know if you realized it. I know we talked after. We were there for 6 hours.
Yeah.
You were praying like that for most of the time. I mean,
Right.
and I actually got nervous for a second, because
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on.
well, you know, sometimes necessity is the mother of invention, and I just didn't know what else to do. But it worked.
Yeah.
It worked, and that was another case where we talked to her later, and she was so happy.
Oh yeah.
And she told the priest that she had worked with, and you know, they were happy, and so that all it ended very
Yeah,
well.
it was
that
incredible.
was very rewarding. That 6 hours, it
Yeah.
made it worth it.
I just couldn't believe how long you were like that praying. I mean, I obviously was standing there praying too, and I had the holy water with me when she really acted up.
Yeah.
But to see her like that, and I hadn't seen that before with her or you, and there was no indication that you were going to do what you did.
Right. No.
So I was just kind of like, oh, what's going on? it was a long time ago too. We hadn't seen as much as we had seen. That was one of the first, I'd say at the time, one of the more active and
in a person.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, should we have time to go into the most active
We
case?
still have a few minutes. We can run a little longer.
Okay, but I think the most active, where we really found evidence and things happening, was at my old rectory.
Oh yes.
And that's where we first actually worked together.
Yep.
TPG,
Yep.
you and Scotty and Ed and John.
Yeah.
You guys came right away and to do an investigation. But why don't you talk of some of the phenomenon that was happening
Well,
there?
before the investigation, you and I had sat down in I can't remember the name of the room, but it was a room on the first
It was
floor.
appointment.
Like a conference room. Yeah. And as we were sitting there, nobody else was in the rectory at the time. In between the two of us, we heard a hiss. Like literally right in between us, and we're only
That was
this far
true. You
away.
were with somebody else too at the time who was a member of the.
Oh, he was sitting next to me, but
and he
that's
heard
right, I
that
forgot
too.
about him. And then we heard keys in
And
the
I thought
next
it was,
room.
and I thought it was the maintenance guy coming in.
Oh yeah,
and there
that
was
was
nobody in.
that was something. Then you had the sounds that were happening in the upstairs while you were on the first floor.
Yeah. Now before we met you, this is what started it. Is I was having a meeting with, at the time when we were a paranormal group, rather than the Presidium. And as we were talking, we kept hearing boom, 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 and we were asking, well, who's upstairs? He said, there's nobody upstairs. There's nobody else here, but but us. But it was clear cut that you couldn't mistake it, and that's why we had called you. But I think that even the best part of that it was the fact that we got evidence.
Yeah, some of the best evidence.
But also prior to that, we had a rectory dog, that belonged to my director of religious ed's daughter, who was a secretary, and he was there, and he would go up the steps and come down the steps, just playful. All of a sudden, he got up there and he panicked up there, and he wouldn't move, and she knew there was something different.
Right.
Another parishioner was in there working on something, and they heard noises, and they say, Father Bob, who's here? And nobody was there, but noises. and so that he just bolted out. He said the Our Father, and he bolted out. So there was a lot, but the biggest evidence was that what we got on video.
Yeah, we actually, I think it was the St. Michael room upstairs.
Yeah, we had upstairs were classrooms for religious education. Yeah.
We had a camera facing inward, and the angle it was, you would have seen if anybody walked into the room. It was,
and to tell you, that wasn't used at that time for classroom. They were all boxes.
Right.
Because I had to move out of the rectory for a while because of the mold, and then come back in. So it just piles of boxes in that room.
That's what was the most interesting part, actually. Yeah. In the center of the room was a mound of boxes, and suddenly, on the left-hand side, you see a shadow come up, crouch down, go across the room, behind the boxes, and out the other side.
Yeah.
Now, we tried to duplicate it, and
there was nobody else. We were not on that part of the building at all.
Nope.
During that time. So I thought that was formidable. And, again, what I learned, too, is that you trust in the prayer, but you have to do the maintenance. And the maintenance is you're going to believe.
Right.
And so after it happened, a couple of times I was in my office, I would hear things out there. So you're not bothering me. You're not bothering me. Don't even bother. You're not getting to me. And after a while, everything stopped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
sometimes that's the best thing. Just try to ignore it.
Yeah.
Because if it's just like the bully, if you're being picked on, you ignore the people. Sometimes they just get bored and go away. So
that's it.
But we are up against the clock. I think we talked about some great cases that we did. So until next time, I'm Rob Jacobs.
And I'm Father Bob Bailey. And don't forget, when you're confronting the darkness,
put on the whole armor of God
with the sword of St. Michael. God bless you.
God bless.